Uh, Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the morning volatility report. As I am Giovanazzi, Chief Operating Officer of OptionPit.com, your home for volatility trading. Well, what do we have? Mark, a little blog yesterday. Market is spooked. He's saying, look for one more day of VIX rallying with a soft VVIX, and that might be time to buy puts in VIX. So let's see if that's going to plan. All right. Real simply, VIX cash is up, market's down 1%. It feels like the cash VIX is outpacing the move a little bit. Just looking at the November cycle, now volatility is around 100%. And all I will say right now is it's just kind of consistent with a market that is. Let's see here. Let's get rid of the realized vol for a moment. All right. We're kind of back up to this worrisome area again, where this is kind of the area where we'll decide if the sell-off has any real legs. What it looks like is the Fed managed to put out a confusing message once again that has spooked market participants once again. It's hard to describe it any other way. Earnings are coming out; they're just starting to roll out, and we're selling off prior to the earnings. I think the only thing I've seen so far is CSX looked like it was up a little bit pre-market. That was kind of it's kind of a bellwether. But this right now, everything is just consistent with the VIX at 18. We're moving, now that we're kind of moving, the low realized vol we have has just kind of gone away. Literally overnight, the Fed has managed to throw confusion into everything. And by throwing confusion into everything, stocks are in no man's land. What does that mean for volatility? I think this is one of those days where you have to let the futures kind of move where they're going to go. Meaning everything is kind of fair at where it is. You got an 18 VIX, you're moving it around 18 volatility, something like that. So there's nothing really compelling one way or the other. We're moving. The stocks are down more. We've come off from 2,200 2190 fairly hard. And that's what we have. There's just not a lot of right. There is let's just say with at the end of with rates going up, that has taken a big impetus out of equities. And now, you put China back in there, and it's just enough to make everybody nervous overnight. And I think that's what we have. There's not anything that looks super bad, but it's people are uncomfortable. The Fed made people more uncomfortable. And we're going to sit here and look at this. So gold's a little stronger. Most of the stars, Apple's holding. It's kind of giving back a little bit now. A lot of the big star stocks are drifting lower. There doesn't look like much up besides VXX. Walmart's up a little bit more. Can't quite figure out why. Maybe just on a little bounce. We'll take a look at that in our strategy letter. AT&T down 4 cents. That's kind of I think it's becoming one of our room favorites for a diagonal put spread. Is this really bad? I don't know. What I would look for is just see if there is if we look at the tick chart for VIX today. What I normally do is I'm just looking for kind of an orderly move in vol. So Okay, let's go 2-day vol. All right, it had a pretty good size gap on the open, and vol steadily going higher. Okay, so let's see how far that runs. Let's see how far they take the vol up. October, that number is going to be very high, even though, remember, it's going to be very noisy relative. Very noisy relative. It's going to be mirroring the future. It only, excuse me, we only have a week to go. It's about 20 cents under, but it's hanging right there. All right. We looked at a couple of plays in VXX and VIX this week. Mostly just kind of, I will just say, kind of quasi backspready type trades. Flies on the upside, puts on the downside. Nothing's really moved enough. Maybe moved a little bit to make a little money. But we had that kind of what I'll just call a tweener move. We haven't really broken out. We just have a little more vol, and that's what we have. So what might be interesting? Again, I still think like an iron condor, anything like that that's kind of getting away from the market, making it, having it in SPX, maybe even the NDX expiring before, excuse me, expiring before the election. You know, are we going to get more than a 5% range before the election? It's possible. But I think at least those are a little bit more manageable type trades. Also, again, looking at banks, we still like banks, and we still like oil stocks in general, depending on how things are moving. And with that, I will see all of you many of you in our chat room later today. But again, this is, take a look. If they really start to come for the volatility in here, right, this is a good level. If you start to see the vol start to fraction break and go straight up in VIX, then there's going to be some real nervousness. So keep an eye out for that. All right, everybody, have a good day.